Hey everyone, Leo with Dreaming Treat, and welcome to the assembly video for our chocolate bomb treat box. I have all of my pieces cut out and here in front of me, as should you. And we're going to begin by putting together the base of this. Okay, we have these 4 pieces, and I was lucky enough to cut this out of a foil, which is going to be tons of fun. I say that sarcastically because foil sometimes is a little bit difficult to work with when you're working with structures, but it's okay. So what we're going to do is join all these pieces together using this tab here. So let's begin by applying glue to this tab. And the problem with foil when it comes to structures is that it's not a very porous material. And it can be a little challenging sometimes, but what we want to do is just match this up like so. Just make sure the top and bottom are matched up. This line here should meet with this line here, the horizontal score, as should the tip of this here. And if you too are working with a foil, be careful that you don't have glue on your fingers, because once that glue gets on that foil, it tends to be very unforgiving. Okay, so there we have that. And what we're going to do is we're going to join all these together like so, and then we're going to put the panel on before we close it up. Okay, so let's move on here to the next tab. Go nice and easy. The glue really just kind of floats on this material. Okay, so just do your best. You're probably making this out of paper, so don't worry about it. You'll be fine. I mean, this is paper, but you know what I mean. This is a foil. It's just a metallic thing. It almost looks like it has a craft sort of backing to it. And get that in place. We'll go on to the next one. Just make sure that everything is set before you move on. There we go. And spread that out to the very edge, kind of just dabbing it. Grab the next piece, line it up, and press it into place. It has a bit of a tendency to really show the glue as well. It's almost like a malleable metal. Okay, so we've got all 4 pieces connected like this. And what I'm going to do next is take these panels and we're going to glue these panels on like so. So you'll notice these cutouts here, they're going to match up perfectly with these cutouts here. So that is your guide for placement. If you have those lined up correctly, then everything else will just fall into place. And another little tip, if you are using a foil like I am, you want to try to get it in position the first time. You don't want to try to move it around too much because the glue will sort of blemish your surface. If you're using paper, you don't really have to, or standard cardstock, you probably don't have to worry about that too much. So just be cautious. Okay, I'm going to do my best to get that aligned accurately. And before I put it down completely, I'll make sure that this one's aligned as well. Okay, so I did pretty good there. I'm going to press that down, and you can see there I had a little bit of glue that leaked out, and it is on the foil now. It'll dry, mostly transparent. Sometimes it leaves a little blemish, so you want to be careful with your glue as well. Okay, but that looks good so far. And I'm going to move on to the next panel and just keep going here. And then another thing sometimes you run into is, you know, the back of this print, this pattern paper, is very busy, and it makes it a little difficult to see where the glue is sometimes. So I've got all these things working against me right now. Just have to be very methodical, very careful, and precise, and we'll get the job done. Just like that. This time I was a little more cautious with the glue in these areas here. Again, you're probably just using regular paper, and this is not going to be a problem for you. You can just listen to me whine, but it's going to look really good. Okay, nice and easy around the flowers here. And if you do happen to get a little more glue around these little areas, you can always just kind of hit it with your finger to thin it out so it doesn't go leaking out when you apply it. If you flatten it there, save yourself a mess. There we go. Okay, and of course had a little bit of glue leak out in between right here, but that's okay. You're not even going to notice it really. I'm just a little OCD when it comes to this stuff, especially because, well, I'm not just giving it to one person. We're going to be taking photos of this and putting it on the website. So of course, it needs to look really good. And this is the actual unit, the actual version that you'll see on the website. Okay, there we go. Line that up there. Nice and easy. Drop it into place. There we go. And that looks good. Okay. All right, so we've got our panels in place. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to close this up like so. All right, so let's grab our glue and apply it to this tab here. Nice and easy. I'm going to dab that. You can spread it if you're using regular paper. And technically, because this is a symmetrical piece, you should be able to do this flat, where you just kind of line it up like that. I'm going to just do it this way. I feel like this is actually more accurate. And then once I have it, I can put it down flat. There we go. Perfect. Okay, great. All right, so now I might be jumping the gun a little bit here, moving a little too quick, but so far so good. This is the bottom, and what we're going to do when we put this on is we're going to anchor it to one of these long tabs first. We're not going to try to do all four at the same time, because that often can be a little difficult. It's better if we get it anchored to one side, and then the rest of it will just fall into place more easily. Okay, so I've got glue on one of those tabs. It doesn't matter which one, you can pick one. Get it right up to the very edge and nice and centered. And press that down onto that tab. It may not be making full contact all the way yet, but what we're going to do, once it has some contact, we're going to let it drop and then press down from the inside to help the rest of that tab make contact with that piece. And just keep pressing that down. Here we go. Give that a few seconds. And this material is actually working out a little bit better than I thought. Okay, all right, wonderful. So now you can pull that back just a bit, and we're going to apply our glue to the remaining tabs here. With a paper like this that's not as porous, you don't need to put as much glue on. You have a little extra time, actually quite a lot of extra time, to move that glue around before it starts to get tacky and dry, because it's got nothing really to absorb into. There we go. All right, so now we're going to close this up, and we're going to focus on aligning it with this side here, the side opposite of the side that's already connected. Let's try to get that nice and centered right out to the edge. Okay, like so. And if we need to, we can kind of nudge these little walls in here. I got to push that one in just a tiny bit, just like that, and continue pressing down. And then once the very edges have made good contact, we can flip it over and push down on the rest of the tab. Make sure that that makes good contact. Okay, so there is that. And there is the main structure, okay? Next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this piece, it's all joined together, which is nice, and that's gonna go right inside, like so. And you can see how nicely that fits, okay? Let's take a look, looks good. So what we can actually do is take this and let's just glue this down to the center inside. Okay, just pop that right in. Make sure it's nice and centered in there. and take a look at these pieces here. Make sure that they are tucked behind the front of this. Just press down maybe with your fingernail right up to the very edge there where the score marks are. Push it down as far as it'll go. There we go. Okay, and then what we can do is peel back each of these little sections. And now one thing we want to do here is avoid putting glue right here where it'll show through this little hole here. So what I would actually recommend doing is applying glue to this structure here so we know exactly where the glue needs to go. And I think you could just get away with putting glue on just this top area that has the little scallops, and then maybe just a little bit down at the bottom. And then you can take it, bring it down. You might need to kind of nudge it down a little bit so it doesn't show through the front, and then press that into place. Use your table for that extra leverage. It'll speed things up too. Okay, and that looks great from that side. So we can go over to the next section. Actually, you know what? This is the side we just did. I'm gonna go to this side next. I kind of like to work on opposite ends like that. I think it's a little more accurate. Okay, get that glue going there around those little scallops. And a little bit down there. Bring that down. And if you need to give it a little push down, that's okay. Let's take a look. Looks good. Okay. Now just pick another side. Doesn't matter which one. I'm going to grab this side. And we've got 2 more sides to do. Just like that. And it's going to clean up the inside. Also, going to make it a lot more sturdy. Okay, make sure it's tucked behind this front layer. Press that down. There we go. Looks great. And that just leaves one last one. Just like that. That one looks good too. Press it down into place. And there we go. Okay, looks great. All right, nice and solid. Okay, now you'll notice inside there's a series of little score marks here, and that's going to help us place the little container. It's a little lip so that when we put the top of the box in place, it has a place to, it'll kind of hold it in place. You'll see what I mean. That didn't really make a lot of sense, but you'll see what I mean when we get there. So we're going to need these 2 pieces here, and the first thing we're going to do is join them together to make it one long piece. So we're going to start with this tab. Go ahead and apply your glue. It's a relief to be back and working with standard AC cardstock, my favorite. Okay, grab the other side here. Make sure the tabs are facing the same way. And just line that up as accurately as you can. Should be flush at the top. And these horizontal score marks should meet right there. Okay, just hold that in place for just a few seconds. You can take it and fold it over. Make sure this is nice and straight. Here we go. And then we're going to take this tab and glue it to that side. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's get that glue going. Spread it out. There we go. You can actually put this down flat again. And then bring this side over. Pop it right on there. Should match up perfectly. There we go. Wonderful. And then move this thing out of the way. Bring these tabs in. And this is a little funky because of the shape, but we'll get it. We're going to put glue on all of these tabs and close this up. Try to get this in the correct shape right now, as close as you can. We're going to need to kind of nudge some of the walls in or out to get it to look the way it should look, I guess you could say, for it to be correct. Okay, so I'm going a little bit heavier with the glue on these tabs because I need to spread them out, and I don't want that glue to dry out too quick. Okay, we'll take that, start spreading it out to the very edge. You got to try to work quickly before it starts to dry too much. Now, if you don't get it closed up correctly the first time, there's something we can do to fix it, and I'll show you that. Okay, so we're gonna focus on this end here first, get that nice and centered right out to the edge, and you can see what's happening here. We gotta take and kind of nudge these walls around a little bit. That one's good. We'll push this one in a little bit. That one lines up nicely. Then over here, gotta give that a little nudge. Give that a little nudge, and then just continue to press down right at the very end, or very edge on all the sides here. And once those are making contact, we'll flip it over and press down on the rest of the tab to get that to hold for us. Okay, and that looks great. Let me take a look at my seams. Just kind of rotate it, make sure everything is nice and flush, and it is. That worked out for me. Now, if by chance you have any gaps here, you can take a scrap piece of paper and just put a little bit of glue right on the very end of it, and just tuck that in there, paint a little bit of glue in that area, and then press and hold it, give it a little extra TLC, and allow that to completely dry. Okay, all right, so we have this, and what we're gonna do, as you can see, we have these little score marks here, and each score mark is a corner. Okay, so it's gonna go right in there like that, and that's gonna be our little container, as well as the lip for the lid. Okay, so what we can do is flip this over, and let's apply our glue to the perimeter. And just because I like things to look as seamless as possible, I'm gonna spread that glue out. We'll grab this, match it up with those little score marks all the way around. If you're slightly off, it's not a big deal, but there's really no reason why you should be. And just press that down into place. Give that a few seconds. You can push from the inside as well. There we go. All right, so the container, a little tray with the lip, is now complete. Now we just need to make our little chocolate bomb. All right, so here is the main structure. You can see we've got quite a few tabs here, but it'll go pretty quick. The number one thing to remember here is just to make sure that you go easy on the glue. Don't cake it on. The more glue you put on there, the longer you're gonna wait, the more frustrated you will become. So let's not do that. Okay, and also, this first little tab here is pretty small, but it's enough to where you can get some glue on there and actually get it in place with your finger. I can feel it. It's definitely thick enough, and we are absolutely going to use that to help put this thing together. Okay, so let's do that. We're gonna start off getting this out of the way and applying glue to this first little tab here. Just take it easy with the glue, not a lot, especially on this piece. It doesn't need a lot. Okay, bring this down and move that out of the way, and press that tab up behind the neighboring piece here that I'm holding in my right hand. And just give that a few presses. Okay, and if you use just the right amount of glue, especially with this cardstock, it should only take a few presses and it should be good to go. Now, as you're working on this, feel free to move these little segments out of the way for easier access to the next tab. Okay, and be very sparse with the glue just to keep this process rolling. Okay, and got a little bit of glue on that tab, line it up. This edge should meet the score mark on this side as accurately as you can get it, and press that into place. And you can see just a couple presses with a minimal amount of glue, and I'm able to move on to the next tab without sitting there for a long time waiting for it to dry. Okay, we'll do the same thing with the next one. Line that up. It starts off at an angle, and then it does become straight up and down as you get to the bottom of this. Okay, and then I just have one more tab here. I'll move that out of the way, apply my glue. Okay, just press that last piece into place, and then we're just going to repeat the process all the way around a few more times. So we're going to start again with this little guy, and just go easy with the glue on that one. I'm going to thin that out a bit. And bring that down, line it up as accurately as you can, and press that into place. Now we're going to have this piece going over this to make it smooth or give it a smooth appearance. So if you do happen to get a little bit of glue that shoots out here, don't lose any sleep over it because we're going to cover that up. Again, feel free to move things out of the way for easier access to the next tab. Nice and easy with the glue. Spread that out, grab that next section, line it up like so. So again, this is kind of angled here, slight angle here, and then it's going to go straight down here. The edge of this, you want to match that up with basically the little score marks on this section that have the tab. Okay, and I guess the way to explain it would be a proper alignment would be getting this edge right here as close to that score mark. You almost kind of like almost want it on top of, if you were to take that score mark and cut it in half, that's where you want to line it up if possible. I mean, it's impossible to really see something that detailed unless you had a microscope, but try to visualize that. Get it as close as you can. Okay, there we go. You can see what it's supposed to look like. All right, and we'll pop that back. Get the big tab here. Nice and easy with the glue. Spread that out. You can spread it, you can dab it, whatever feels better. Line it up and press it into place. I'm using 4 fingers here. I'm using these 2 and these 2 to really get that glue to penetrate into the fibers of the paper. And now we have 3 sections done. Move this out of the way. Get that out of the way and grab that first little tab there. And hit that with just a little bit of glue, nice and thin. And I'm just going to go around one more time. A few more times here. Line that up. Press into place. And hold just briefly. There we go. Okay, very gently move that out of the way. And grab that next tab. Get some glue on it. Okay, and line that up, and there we go. So just going to keep going around the bend here. Yeah, so this one here, that should fit. Definitely a cupcake, some small cupcakes. I forget what I bought. I have cupcakes, I have little, I think they're pronounced cellas. They're like milk chocolate balls or something, I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm going to put in here yet for the photos, but you can fit a good amount of little treats in there. Maybe some macaroons actually would work well. You could put them all in a little baggie so that the little oils from the cookies don't absorb into the paper and blemish it. Not that it matters. I mean, this is it could be a keepsake. Someone can keep this for sure, but chances are it's going to be a disposable item, especially if you give it to a child. Who knows what they'll do with it. I know when I give some of these projects to my soon-to-be 10-year-old girl, they last pretty long, but you know, she tends to play with them, and you know, it is paper. So anyway, all right, so we're about halfway through here. We're going to continue down the next section. We got the little tiny tab here again. And what I'm doing here is I'm just squeezing a little bit of glue out and then just dabbing it onto the tab. So I'm not continuously squeezing glue out, just squeezing out a little bit right at the tip and then just kind of dabbing it with the nozzle. You don't need a lot of glue. And then of course spreading it with my finger to thin it out even more. Okay, there we go. And as we get closer to closing this thing up, you're going to notice that the little pieces to your right might be getting in the way a little bit, so just do your best to work around them. Like I said, I'm taking this one and just moving it out of the way. It's very helpful. There we go. That's nice and aligned. Press that into place. Just give it 3 or 4 little presses, move that out of the way. And the next one. That was probably thin enough where I didn't have to touch it with my finger, but that's okay. All right. And the last one. There we go. So this is probably the most time-consuming part of the project because of its, dimensional shape. All right, so 3 more to go here, and then we got to close it up. When we do that, we're gonna have to work from the inside because we don't want to pull this thing apart and rip it. Nice and easy on that little tab there. Let's move this out of the way. Line that up and press it into place. Now, if you find that this top tab is difficult to work with, I think you could probably skip it. Try not to, but you might be able to. Okay, there we go. Let's move that back. Expose this tab. Nice and easy with the glue. Line it up and press into place. There we go. Bend that back. And if you are feeling adventurous, maybe you could even do 2 tabs at a time once you start getting the hang of it. As long as you're being sparse with the glue and it's not getting caked on, you technically should be able to do that. Okay. Now, if you're new to this, if this is like your first dimensional project, I would probably avoid trying to do more than 1 tab at a time, just because I do think it takes a little bit of experience to make sure that everything is lining up correctly. But if you are feeling confident and think you could do a few at a time, I wouldn't do this first one here. I would do that one on its own. I wouldn't try to do this one and then the next one because it's such a delicate little piece. Okay, I would definitely just take my time on that one. But the other ones you could probably do in one fell swoop. Now, as I mentioned earlier, now that we're getting closer to the end here, this thing's kind of getting in the way of my hand, but do your best to just work around it. Okay, peel that back very gently, and I'm going to try to do all 3 here. Let me clean off this tip. It's getting a little caked. Nice and thin. And might be shooting myself in the foot here, saying I could do all 3. But we'll see. Okay, and bring that down. Line it up, press. See, when you do more than one, you tend to kind of rush a little bit because you don't want that glue to set and start drying before you get a chance to press it down. So again, if this is like your first dimensional project like this, do 1 at a time. But that actually worked out just fine. All right, so now when we put this last piece in, we want to make sure that we try to keep these tabs inside, these tabs on the right side. Okay, so let's get the first one glued into place, this little guy. Just like that. Get those other tabs inside. There we go. And let's line that up. And this is where it gets a little more tricky. And don't worry if you're kind of jostling this thing around a bit. Okay, that one seems to be in place. And now I'm gonna go from the inside to apply the glue for these last 3 tabs. Okay. Just because I don't want to start yanking at this thing. Okay, so you can see I'm just doing the same thing here, just dabbing that glue onto those tabs. Got the last 3 tabs covered in glue. Keep these other tabs here inside, and I'm going to go this way Keep my hand out of that little area. I'm doing my best to get that nice and aligned. Going to the next one. And the last one. I need to give that a little nudge in. There we go. Perfect. All right, so that worked out nicely. And we're ready to close this thing up now. Keep those tabs inside. We've got that little tiny guy in there. You can see him there, right there. Let's get some glue on that, nice and easy. Okay, and I'm gonna work with this hand, pushing up against the tab in there. I'm gonna push down here like this with my other fingers. Okay, this might be a little tricky. And actually what we can do, if this first one doesn't stay for us, when we get the other ones glued in, we can always go back to it. Okay, but I think that's working out all right. Let me get glue on the remaining 3 tabs here, and if I need to go back on that small one, I can. So I'll just throw some glue on these 3 tabs. Now, also, if you're finding it difficult to get your nozzle in there, remember you can always take a scrap piece of paper and paint the glue like this, and you can make that piece of paper as long or as short or as thin or as wide as you want it. And you see I just use that to spread that glue around. I'm going to go here, the second one, and that little guy, I knew it was going to happen. He popped out of place, but that's okay. I'm going to get this one in first. And I'm going to grab the second one here. So that one's in place. This one's in place now. And the big one's in place. And then I can always go back in and glue that, give this top one a little extra glue to get it to sit. Okay, yeah, and it did come loose because I really can't get my finger in there. So let me grab a scrap, throw a little glue right on the very edge of it, and then just paint that glue right onto that tab. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. There we go. And you can see a little bit of it squirted out, but that's okay, because like I said, we're going to be covering this up anyway. Okay, there we go. You can rub that off, not a big deal. All right, cool. All right, so there it is. And let's take a look, make sure that it fits, and it does, of course. All right, so what we're gonna do next, this piece here, okay, you can see how that goes on. What we're gonna do is take one segment of this, and we're gonna glue this down, making sure that it's flush with the bottom and nice and centered. We're gonna glue it all the way up, and then we're gonna do the other side to get this anchored like this. And then the rest of them will be exactly where they need to be, and it's just gonna be very simple from here on out. So let's go ahead and apply glue to the inside of one of these. Try to go out as far as you can, out to the sides. Go easy on the glue. You don't want a big fat glob. Go nice and easy. Pick a side, any side, doesn't really matter, and match it up at the bottom. Make sure that's flush, and then also pay attention and make sure it's also centered. Okay, I think I got it. Feels good. Let's take a look. I think that's good. Okay, and then just kind of work your way up to this point here, the top of this, and hold that in place for just a moment. Let that set. I've got my fingers right here at the very top. I think it did a good job of getting that centered. Just hold that in place. And we don't want it, you can see how there's little gaps right here. That's okay, because we don't want this to be like a polygon. We want this to be round. Okay, so as long as we get it up to the top, that's fine. All right, so now we're gonna go right across to this piece here. Let's flip this back. Okay, and let's apply glue to this piece here, all the way to the outside and to the bottom. Make sure you get that glue right out to the very edge, like so. And we're gonna bring this down, making sure that it is flush with the bottom and centered. Okay, there we go. And then focus on getting it to stick here at the very bottom first. And then the rest of it will just kind of fall into place. You don't really need to, you can push right here a little bit. I got my fingers in there. You can push there a little bit. I wouldn't worry so much about pushing in these places here, because once it's glued down here and here, the rest of this is not going anywhere since it's all joined together. Okay, so that just makes it so much easier. All right, so we got both sides in place. Now we have these two sides in place. I'm going to go over to the sides here, these two. Okay, we can flip this back and apply our glue to this next section. Try to go out to the sides as far as you can, and of course, all the way to the very bottom. I want that to be nice and flush. And here again, flush with the bottom. If you need to kind of tug at it a little bit to pull it down, that's fine. And then also make sure it's centered. And continue to press here. And then you can give this a press here as well. And there we go. Okay, a few little presses on that section should do it. And then we're going to go all the way out to the other side of this. Pull that back. Apply our glue. Bring that down, nice and centered again. If you need to kind of give it a little nudge, that's totally normal. And make sure it's flush with the bottom here. Looking good. There we go. And of course, don't forget to press up here too. I want that to sit nice and flat, if possible. There we go. Cool, so that just leaves 4 more. And at this point, you can pick whichever side you want, doesn't matter. There we go, just gonna kind of dab that a little bit at the bottom, thin it out so it sticks quicker. Bring that down, get it nice and centered. There's a little wiggle room. You can actually move that a little bit, and then just give that a little tug if you need to. There we go. And just press down at the bottom here, make sure that's all nice and flush. And then again, right here, give that a press. Okay, and don't worry about the seams. We've got some little icing pieces that are gonna go over that as well, and that's gonna pretty it up for us. Okay, going over here, skip into the other side. Right out to the very edge. Bring that over, nice and centered. If you need to give it a little yank, make it nice and taut. I need to kind of move mine over to the left a tiny bit. It's got a little wiggle room. There we go. Press here. There we go. Awesome, looking good. See, so we take a polygon shape and make it round. I think that's our favorite thing to do. Okay, same thing here. Make sure it's nice and centered, flush with the main structure. Press that into place. There we go. And right there. And then finally, last one. Just like that, and bring it down. All right, so now that we have the main structure all complete, we do have these panels that are basically the icing, and you're gonna wanna fold. There's a little fold that creates a little triangle at the top, and each of these pieces are numbered, okay? So the reason for that is just to make sure that everything connects properly. So we're gonna have to go through here and just identify which one's which. The numbering convention is, it's Roman numeral, but there's also, I'm gonna draw this out for you so that there's no confusion here. Give me 1 second. We have this in the help section on our website, but I'll just show you here. We got 1, 2, 3, and then a 4 is 4 in basically a square or a circle. 5 is gonna be like this. 6 is gonna be like this. So this is 4. that's 4, that's 4. So 4, 5, 6, and so on and so forth. You have a total of 8 pieces. And what I would do, just to be safe here, I would just put them in order. So that's 5. And I really can't tell what that one is, only because I embossed it, and it's really hard to tell. That's 1. Okay, so I have them all lined up, 1 through 8, and we're going to begin with piece number 1, obviously. And the way this is going to work is we're just going to take this and glue this right to the top here. This little fold here is going to match up with the fold right there. We want to try to make sure we get it nice and centered, and then we're going to just glue that down nice and flat onto that surface. Okay, so let's do that. We also want to put some glue on this little triangle as well to hold that in place. And then we have a little piece that's going to go on top of that to kind of cap it off, to hide that, to make it nice and pretty. Okay, so here's number 1. And again, just match that up with the little score mark there. Make sure it's nice and centered on the surface. And then just press that down into place. Nice and easy. Just like that, and then make sure you hold the bottoms down so that they're not, you want everything to make contact. Okay, so here's piece number 2. It's going to go like this, and you want to butt that up as close as you can here to its neighbor. Okay, don't forget to put some glue on the entire piece here. Nice and easy with the glue. Don't cake it on. We don't want it spilling out. Okay, same thing applies here. Just match it up with the little fold. And there we go. Press that down into place on both sides, all the way down to the bottom. Okay, and you can see that I also ran this through an embossing machine, and that gives it a nice texture. There we go. Okay, very simple. And moving right along, piece number 3. I'm just going to do that. I'm going to go clockwise. Very simple. Okay, line that up with the fold. You can feel it. It'll just kind of snap into place. Press that down. Make sure it's nice and centered. Just hold it in place. And there we go. Make sure that bottom is nice and flat. You can see how nice that's starting to look. I'm going to hold that down there for a second too. Okay, piece number 4 coming in hot. And then we just have a little flower to create to finish it off. Okay, there we go. Make sure everything lines up nicely, nice and centered. Press it down into place. There we go. You can push from the inside too if you need that little extra leverage. That's totally fine. There we go. All right. Moving along here. This is actually very easy. And we originally were going to keep all these pieces together, but then you couldn't emboss it. And we really wanted to be able to emboss these pieces because you can see that it really adds a lot of interest to it when you emboss it. So just opted to separate them. Okay, next piece here. And just make sure you get some glue right out to the very bottom of the little icing drips. Get that nice and centered right up onto that little fold. Press that down. And just hold that in place. And that little flower on top will really complete this thing and make it look super awesome. Okay, moving right along. just match that up, get it nice and centered, press it into place. There we go. Beautiful. All right, and our last one going in. Getting that glue all the way to the bottom. And that should fit like a glove. There we go. Okay. Looks good. Matching up perfectly. And there we go. Okay, so now this top part here, we have this last piece, and that's going to go right on top to cover all that up. So go ahead and throw some glue on the bottom of this. Try to get it out to the edge. We want that to be nice and seamless. And it doesn't really matter how you put it down. Just get it centered. The flower's going to go on top of this anyway. So that's gonna kind of hide this for the most part, but still want to try to make it as pretty as possible. And there we go. You can flip it over, push down from the inside, give it a little extra oomph. There we go. Okay, so let's pop that onto our base. It looks great. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do here, we're gonna take this little leaf and I'm gonna place the set of leaves between my finger and the dowel, raise this up about 90 degrees and just run the dowel through just to give it a little bit of a curve like that. Okay, and that's going to get glued right onto the top like that. Make sure you get that nice and centered like so. Take a look at it from kind of an eagle-eyes perspective. Make sure you do in fact have it nice and centered. There we go. Okay. Okay. Next, we're going to take. We've got this set of. Oh, this is going to be the main flower, and then we also have this. Okay. And what I want to do here is I'm going to take a little bit of a thicker dowel. I'm going to place each of these hearts in the center of the dowel and just kind of wrap them around the dowel. And that's going to kind of train them. This paper is almost like almost reminds me of those jeans that have like the spandex in them. It's kind of bouncy actually. You might need a thinner dowel to really get them to kind of stick. And just taking both sides of the heart and just wrapping it around the dowel just to give it a little bit of dimension like that. Okay, and then we can actually take these and just kind of bend them up a little bit. They're going to flatten out, but I do want to bring them to life a little bit. Okay, and then what we're going to do is take this and glue this onto the center of the set of leaves here. It doesn't matter how you do it, just make sure you get it centered. Okay, there is kind of like a little circle already there, like that. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with the next set. I'm going to use a nice thin dowel here. Wrap that around. Give these a little bit of life. Okay, there we go. And I did hit the ends of these little hearts with a little bit of purple ink. Let's bring this up. Okay. And we're going to glue this to the first set of petals. So just throw a little bit of glue right there in the center. And this time, you don't want to put them right on top of the previous layer. You want to offset it a little bit so that each of the sets of petals are kind of visible. Just offset it so that it looks nice and full. There we go. That looks good. Very nice. Okay. Okay, so now this guy here, what we're going to do is, you can see that the hearts kind of start smaller. If you compare this heart to this heart, you can see that there's this heart is bigger, okay? And that's going to be at the bottom of the flower, and the outside and the bottom. This is going to be the interior of the flower. So we're actually going to start here, We're gonna wrap this around either a dowel, a pen, or maybe just a dowel that has about the thickness of a pen is fine. And literally we're just gonna take this and just start to wrap it. So we're gonna take this and we're gonna wrap it around a dowel or a pen or whatnot. But before we do that, just like we did with these first 2 layers, I wanna take and train these little petals around a dowel to give them a little bit of interest. Okay, so I'm literally just taking each one and just kind of molding it and pressing it against my dowel here to give it a little bit of roundness. So we're going to do that with each of the little petals here, little hearts. Okay, we'll keep going here until we get all the way to the end. And then we're literally just going to take this and just wrap it around itself. I'm sure many of you have probably seen flowers done in this form. Okay, and maybe as we get towards the end, I'm going to use a little bit of a thicker dowel on these larger ones. Okay, and then this little circle here at the bottom is kind of what's going to hold everything in place. For this, I would probably get my hot glue gun going, just because it's going to make it a lot easier. Okay, so I've got about a 1/4 inch dowel here. I'm going to pop it right here at the very tip, and I'm just going to start curling it around onto itself, trying to keep this at the same plane. You don't want to go down like that. You want to keep it right on this entire strip. Okay, so let's just try to be as accurate as we can here. This first little section, you want to make sure that you get that nice and tight around the dowel and just keep it nice and level, and then just start wrapping it very gently. Take your time, no need to rush. Okay, nice and easy. And sometimes you might need to just tuck those petals in a little bit. And if you're slightly off and not staying on plane, it's okay. Just as long as it's in the ballpark, as they say. And of course, this hot glue gun doesn't stay on very long if you don't pull the trigger, so I'm gonna turn it back on. There we go. So we're getting pretty close to the end here. Trying to keep it as tight as possible. It's coming a little loose, but that's okay, as long as it's mostly tight, it'll be fine. Okay, wrap that all the way around until we get down to this little circle part. Okay, kind of give that a little press. We're going to take this little circle part and bring it down. I'm going to fold it, and we want to let it unwind a little bit until it kind of fits onto that circle more accurately. There we go. So just hold that. And we'll take and apply some glue. Let me get it flowing first. Apply some glue to the whole bottom here. Just go around, cover that up. And go ahead and pop it right onto that little circle. Okay. Then we can take and kind of flare these out a little bit. Make this thing a little bit more full. And let that hot glue set. Okay, just squeeze a little hot glue in there. And pop that into place. And if you want to rotate it a little bit so that it looks nice and full, we can always just kind of pull some of these up or down. However we need to kind of finesse this to make it look nice and pretty and full. Okay, there we go. And then finally we have our little stamen piece. You're going to want to find a nice thin little dowel, maybe even a hibachi stick. And you're going to take this and just wrap it around itself as many times as necessary until you get to the end. Okay, again, try to keep it on top of itself as far as this little long rectangular piece is concerned. And then right as you get to the very end, I'm just going to use a little hot glue right on the very end of this to close it up and hold it together. Just wrap that around itself until you end up with this. Okay, and then you can take these little stamen and just kind of flare them out like so. And then we'll throw a tiny little dot of hot glue on the very bottom of this. And just pop it right into the center of our flower. Just drop it right in there. There we go. That looks really pretty from the top, actually. Okay, so that's it. That's it for our, what is this thing? Chocolate Bomb Treat Box. Take a look at the final photo on the website. I'm going to actually put a bunch of little pearls on the icing to kind of mimic sprinkles, I guess you could say. And I think maybe something on the actual base, but we'll see. Either way, take a look at that. And if you enjoyed this video, please take a moment and visit us on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. While you're there, hit the little bell so you get notifications anytime we release a new video, whether it be paid or free. And if you make this or anything from our latest bundle, I'd love to see it, and so would the rest of our community. So head over to your Facebook and do a search for Dreaming Tree Official. That's where you'll find myself and over 40,000 other dreamers that inspire us daily. So don't eat this, obviously. You don't want to eat this, but whoever gets it is going to love it. And as always, I look forward to crafting with you again. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos. And also, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section where we have over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly videos. I look forward to crafting with you soon.